maybe I can go the route with the roundabout or without the roundabout. Which way should we go?
Roundabout.
Ask and you shall receive. Oh, go truck. People in America don't know how to drive roundabouts. Hey everybody, this is Tazlan from Drop Top Tees. I'm here today with Itsy Bitsy, our 124 Spider, to do another video. This time it's not going to be about mods or about tips or tricks on the car, but we just rolled over 25,000 miles. We've owned it for 2 years, and I thought we'd do a video on how we like the car, whether it's been good or not. Just our overall impression of the car after 2 years, so anybody out there who's researching the car gets a perspective from an owner who's had the car for a while, and hopefully that will help them maybe understand a little bit more about the car and what to expect if they decide to purchase one. Now, because I'm just one person, just one opinion, what I did was I went on one of the 124 Spider Facebook pages, the 124 Spider fan club, and asked them to provide short comments on what they thought about the car from their ownership experience. So while we do the video, we're going to be scrolling through comments from a lot of other people, so you get more than just my opinion on how I like the car. You will see there's a couple bad opinions. I didn't filter anything out. I copied everything verbatim, with one exception. There's one lady typed it all in French, so I translated it with Google Translate. Hopefully it's a faithful representation of what she said in French. So without further ado, let's go. First of all, here's my videographer today. It's my daughter Abigail, 16 and nonstop asking us to teach her how to drive a stick so she can drive our Spider, which we'll wait and see. I don't know about that one.
Hey, at least let me drive the Mustang.
You'll get to drive the Mustang until Tim buys it. Happiness is not around the corner. Happiness is in the corner. Don't think it's possible to match this much fun in the car for anywhere close to the price point that 124 Spiders are. I'm not just saying it will make you smile, it really does. So you buy a car for fun, so you expect it to be fun. Is it fun? Hell yes. As you'll see from the comments scrolling by, look at how many of them talk about it's the most fun car they've ever had. It leaves them smiling every time. They aren't just saying that, it is true. You get in this car and drive it, you are going to end up smiling, even on your worst day. You could be the Grinch, you could be Scrooge, you could be the biggest grump in the world. Get in this car, take it for a cruise, especially down a curvy country road, and you are going to smile. It's just the way it is. I know my dad's best friend owned a little MG, and it was an awesome car the one weekend a month that it drove. The rest of the month he spent working on the car so he could enjoy it for 3 or 4 days before it broke down again, literally. But seeing his car made me fall in love with roadsters, and I grew up in Pennsylvania and I saw all kinds of roadsters, and then the 124 Spiders going through our curvy mountain roads that I grew up in, and so I grew up always wanting to own one, and now I have it. lot of people hear Fiat and they think, fix it again, Tony. Oh my God, I'm not gonna buy the car. It's gonna be in the shop all the time. Well, first of all, it was a cute saying, but it wasn't exactly truthful. Yes, the Fiats tended, especially the 124s and stuff, they tended to break down once in a while. But at the same time, compared to their British counterparts, the MGs and the Spitfires and Triumphs and such, they were extremely reliable. To the point that after being introduced in 1966, within 4 or 5 years, the original 124 Spider became the #1 selling roadster in the United States. And it continued that dominance of the market all throughout the 70s. And then in 1981, I think, 81, Fiat pulled out of the US market. The design studio that sculpted the exterior, Pininfarina, rebadged the car as a Pininfarina, I think Azzurra, and they continued to sell it in the US for another 3 or 4 years. So it was a very successful car. Fix it again, Tony? Yeah, cool. But you know, Ford is found on road dead, but yet millions of people buy Fords. They really don't deserve the label that they have. And this car especially, the modern Fiats, aren't like that. After 2 years of ownership, 25,000 miles of ownership, I haven't had anything go wrong except for one thing that I'll show you when I talk about some of the things I don't like about the car. But it's really trivial. It's a minor thing and doesn't affect it mechanically at all. They're hugely reliable, to the point that in the spring of 2020, a little bit under a year ago, I think it was J.D. Powers, it may have been Kelley Blue Book, I think it was J.D. Powers, named the 2020 Fiat 124 Spider the most affordable sports car to own in the United States over the next 5 years of ownership. And they gave it outstanding marks for both quality of build and reliability. So the whole fix it thing, Tony thing, it's a cliche that's really outlived its usefulness. It sounds cool, but it's not truthful. So, if you're trying to decide if you want the car, and you're worried that it's a Fiat, don't worry. Let me say something else about reliability. Even though the engine is Fiat, this engine, by the way, Fiat's been using for approximately 10 years. It is very well battle tested. It's been tweaked. All the little kinks it had have been worked out, and it's just a rock solid performer. You shouldn't have I haven't had any issues with it so far. People build these cars up, they track them, they race them, they put them into SCCA, they run the heck out of them. And there just haven't been widespread complaints about any kind of specific problem with the vehicle, except for one, and that is some people, when they put the hood up, the roof up and down, it rubs against the seat right here. Not all of them do it, a few of them do it, and it's fixable under warranty. That's the only thing I can think of really that more than one person complains about in the car, but it's fixable under warranty. This car is 80% built Japanese. It has a Fiat motor, 1.4 multi-air turbo. It has, suspension is tuned by Fiat. The glass, you can see right here, it has the little Mopar logo. The glass is all Mopar. And there are some other things in here, smaller things that are provided by Fiat Mopar. But overall, the car is Japanese. With that, you get Japanese reliability. Combine that with the Italian flair for styling, and you really end up with the best of both worlds. Japanese reliability, Italian looks. And I should say Italian sound to the motor. This car sounds much better than MX-5. You will see a couple negative comments, but there aren't very many. Most ownership experiences with this car are exceedingly good. So you can take it out, you can really run the heck out of it and enjoy the car the way it was meant to be driven and not expect to have any issues with it. It's small. It only has 2 seats. It's not practical. If you have a family and can only afford 1 or 2 cars, this probably isn't going to be the car for you. However, if you're in a situation in your life where you can afford to own and impractical car, this is the car. But can you at least take a day trip on it? Could you take a weekend trip on it? Yes, easily. It's unlike, say, the Alfa Romeo 4C, which if you ever seen the trunk on that, is big enough for like 2 shopping bags and that's it. Or if you remember the old Pontiac, what are they, Pontiac Souls and Saturn Skies, when they put their top down, completely filled up their trunk space. They had a trunk with their top up, put the top down, and it all disappears. So cargo space. You have enough easily for a weekend trip. Now, having taken multiple trips in this over 2 years, I can tell you the best way to go about this. You can go online. There's a couple places in Europe especially that sell 3-piece luggage sets that are designed specifically to fit in here. They leave a little room on the sides, and one of them leaves room up here. The trouble is they're hard cases. You can't mold them to the shape that you need. They do fit in, but they leave extra space, very little extra space on the side. The solution we've come up with that seems to work the best for us is you get 2 pieces of normal luggage, say carry-on bags from airlines. They'll fit right down here, and then you get 3 or 4 bags that are more flexible in shape, like duffel bags or large laundry bag, cloth laundry bags or something like that, that you can put into the edges and kind of shape them to conform to the space that you have, and that way you can totally use up every cubic centimeter of air that you have in there. Now, besides just the trunk, you get a really small space in the console that, as you can see, we have just our ownership papers like insurance, registration, plus a mask because hey, it's 2021 and we're still recovering from 2020. And then I can't really show you what this is like, but behind each seat you can see the panels here. Normally they pop out and there's space, there's a cubby hole behind each seat. Now, I've taken and modified my speaker system and added speakers here because I wanted more sound. But normally you would have additional space there that, because it's behind the seat, really good for like a first aid kit, something you have in the car that you don't need to access very often. Before we put the speakers in, we put our tire inflator kit in there because it's hopefully something you don't use very much. And then in the very middle, there's a little glove box right here. So you have 3 additional cargo spaces here. And there's other little things you can do to add space. Like you can get leather pouches and put down between the seat and center console and stuff like that. That just adds a small amount of space. So overall, you know, you're not going to go on a camping trip in the car. You're not going to carry a tent or anything big. But for a weekend trip, way more than adequate. I know people on the forums who have taken them on week or 2 long trips across the United States with no issues. You kind of have to plan what you're going to take with you and not take anything that's unneeded. Probably stop and do laundry along the way. Totally doable though. In here, I will say I mentioned the stereo earlier, that I modified the stereo. What we discovered was in the Classica, and probably the same thing in the lower stereo options for the Lisso. When you're at speed with the top down, you tend to only be able to hear the treble in your music, and you lose the bass in the mid-range. So we rectified that. We put in a 400-watt amplifier and upgraded the front speakers, as well as mounting the speakers in the cubby holes there. And now, if I'm going 90 or 100 with the top down, I have the sound I need. an electronic top. This is a manual top. You have to put it up and down yourself. That may sound weird, but let me show you how easy it is. It actually ends up being a really good thing. I prefer it like this over an automated top. By the way, while I get in here, let me say, it is rather a small cockpit. I know people, I think the tallest person I know who owns a 124 Spider is 6'3". So somebody who's 6'3" can definitely fit into the vehicle. You get much higher than that, I don't know if you're going to fit. Number one, with the top up, your head's going to hit the roof. And number two, you can only put the seat back so far. And if you have long legs, you know, over 6'3", it's going to be a bit of a squeeze. The 6'3" person says, hey, no trouble, I can get in and out, no big issue. If you drive a small roadster, you know you have kind of a special way to get in and out. Anyway, because you're so low to the ground, you just end up sitting down a little bit different than, say, getting in a van or a pickup truck where you almost step up into them. But back to the top. Now, I was saying there's some benefit to it, and the reason it's beneficial to have this manual top is that if it's raining around the area and you're top down, it doesn't matter if all of a sudden it starts raining on you. Let me show you how quick you can put up the top. You're literally at a red light, just pull off the side of the road, pop this, pull this, I'm up. Okay, so if you have nice weather, the rain goes away, you want to put your top back down, here's all you have to do. Come on. It's down. Seriously, at a red light, you could put it up, put it down, put it up, put it down, and still have time to put your car in gear when the light turns green. It's that simple. People don't know what it is, and that ends up being one of the cool things about owning the car. It's unique. Nobody knows what it is. You don't see them on the road when you're driving around, and you get stopped all the time. Once a week we have somebody comment about the car to us, if not more, especially if you're driving top down. You'll be pull up to a red light, guy in a pickup truck next to you rolls down his window, what kind of car is that, man? That looks cool. Or they ask you if it's imported. I have a guy ask me if I imported it from Italy. He didn't even know it was for sale in the United States. We have people mistake it, and they don't know what it is. They'll guess it's a Jaguar, they'll guess it's a Ferrari, they'll guess it's anything, except they never guess it's a Fiat. The kids at school where my wife teaches call it her little Lambo. And they tell her when they get older they're going to have a real Lambo and they're going to pass her on the highway. It's funny. The last person who talked to me about it told me that he estimated it was an $80,000 car. They look more expensive than they really are. And this guy in particular, when I told him that I bought it for just a tad under $19,000 brand new with 35 miles on it, refused to believe me. He stood there and argued that I was bullshitting him and that I didn't really pay that little for the car. That was impossible in his mind for me to have paid that little for a car. And while that was a really good deal, you won't find very many people who managed to buy these for under $20,000 brand new. It's still $25,000 will pretty much MSRP for the Classica. It doesn't cost a lot to buy. With all the bells and whistles and a BART, it's still under $40,000. For the performance, it is probably one of the best values you can get in a vehicle ever. And people don't know about it. There are still new ones left to be bought. There are a lot of people who took them out as 2-year leases where the leases are expiring. And so there's a steady market of used vehicles available to purchase. stopping power of this car is amazing. I haven't seen official numbers for it, but as good as it is at going through turns, it's good at stopping too. And sometimes that's a good thing, because being a small car, low profile, close to the ground, one thing you have to be really up on is defensive driving skills. Other drivers may not see you. And the fact that it's so nimble and agile and can stop fast is definitely a saving grace for the vehicle in avoiding some of the more less aware drivers on the road around you. The car weighs just over 2,400 pounds. The engine is a 1.4 liter. It only produces 164 horsepower. And you may say, you know, you're used to hearing cars brag about, I have 500, I have 600, I have 700 horsepower. Like, yeah, you do, and we only have 164. But I'll tell you what, you meet me up on a canyon run or on a twisty country road, and you are not running away from me, because this has world-class grip on the road. It won't beat anybody in a drag race. If you're looking for a car that can go out and race Mustangs downtown from red lights, this is not the car for you. Unless you spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars doing an engine rebuild or swap, this is never going to be a drag race car. It's just not what it's designed to do. It's designed to make you have fun driving at legal or near legal speeds. And if you ever get an opportunity where you can go above the speed limit on twisty roads, then you'll probably have to go to the hospital to wipe the grin off your face when you're done, because it really is that much fun to drive. There's a website online called Fastest Laps, and they post a page called Grip Kings, where they take all the current cars in production and measure their lateral grip on a skid pad. The 124 Abarth clocked in at 1.10 G, and it ranked, out of all the cars being produced right now, it ranked 28th best. Now, the cars that beat it, and I'm going to have to refer to my notes to make sure I get this right, the cars that beat it were like very top-end Corvettes, Lamborghinis, some of the models and versions of the Porsche 911, and it is tied, same grip, as cars such as the Lamborghini Aventador, Corvette ZR1, Porsche 911 Turbo S, Ferrari 488 Pista. So when it comes to going through turns, this car is in great company. The Classica and Lussa were rated at 1.09 Gs, just a 100th G behind the Abarth. They are tied with cars like the Porsche 911 Carrera S, the 911 Targa 4 GTS, and McLaren's 675 LT and McLaren 720S. For a car that ranges from $25,000 to slightly under $40,000 off the showroom, that's just insane company to be keeping. You're competing directly with some of the best handling cars in the world. Car and Driver, about maybe a year and a half ago, I believe it was Car and Driver, did an article where they took the Abarth, a couple supercars, and some high-end performance models of Mercedes and BMWs and stuff, and they took them out on some of the canyon runs out in California, Southern California. And all the writers were amazed in their write-ups. They were saying that even though the 124 doesn't have the high-end pedigree of all these other cars, the other cars could not run away from it in the turns. It hung with them, and they said part of that was because you get such good feedback from the car. You have such a great sense of feel for how the car is interacting with the road, that you can drive it like crazy and be confident that it's not going to let you down. It's a very forgiving car. It lets you know how it feels and what it needs, and it puts you in charge of what the car is doing. And so they said that while this car couldn't pull ahead of the other cars, those other supercars could not get away from it. And these cars are able to hang in the turns with cars that cost 10 times as much. And while it's not a drag car, you get it revved up above 2,500, 3,500 RPMs up to about 5,500 or higher if you want it. You have more than adequate power. You're never going to feel shy or scared, pull out and pass somebody, pull out and merging with traffic on an interstate. Once it gets going, it goes. Off the line like this, yes, it's not strong. Get it up to second or third gear, spool up the turbo, and all bets are off after that. The smile on your face is going to merge, and it's going to stay there until you have to slow down. Some of the things I don't like about it are its paint, okay? It looks gorgeous, but it's Mazda paint, and Mazda puts on really thin layers of paint. So you end up, here, let me show you on my trunk of all places, how you get a ding on your trunk. We have a little scratch here. Driving down the highway, something came and bopped us and put a little scratch in the car. On the front of the car, you'll see it all. I don't have probably a way to show you right now, but you get little paint chips. It's very easy to chip your car. Now there are ways to mitigate the problems you have with the paint chipping. You can put on ceramic coats, you can put on wraps and things like that. You can put on the protection just on the front end of your car to help reduce the amount of cracks that you get. But if you own the car long enough, you are going to have to redo your paint now and then. Another thing is the windshield. Everybody gets cracked windshields from time to time. We have one right now. We caught a rock and bam, we have a chip. Now why is this any different than any other car? Well, replacing this windshield frequently requires you to replace the trim all the way around it, because in order to replace the glass, when you take the trim off, the hooks that keep it in place break. And so what is normally a $200, $300 repair ends up being up to $2,000. If you're in a state or a country where that's covered by insurance, no big deal. If you're in a state like me in Texas, where insurance companies don't have to offer that in their policy, then it could become a bit of a cost to you as an owner. So just something to be aware of. And remember when I said at the beginning, there's some things that are just annoying but not really mechanically problems. They have these like little mud flaps right here. There's two little push pins that keep them in place. You own the car long enough and one of these or both of them will pop out. And while it doesn't really hurt the performance of the car, and you can go to the Dodge dealer and get the push pins for like $3 to $6 a piece, or you can go on Amazon. Go ahead, you can go. Or you can go on Amazon, as I found out, and buy a sorted bag of like 40 or 50 of them for just a few dollars, and just plug them back in. It's still something that can be annoying to people, because every so often you're going to have to replace the stupid things. You can go to some of the aftermarket sites and get more durable little flaps right there and actually bolt them onto your car, so you don't have to worry about replacing them if you so desire. One of our viewers said he doesn't like the way the stitching on his seat shows up in his mirror. Okay, that's not a mechanical issue. It's just a little pet peeve he happens to have about the car. I don't even know if he was serious when he said it, or he wrote it just to see if I would post it in the video. So I'm not certain, but I'm going to put it here just so you can see, hey, here's one thing somebody said kind of bad about the car. So if I have to sum everything up, and I tend to make videos that are too long, so I probably should do that. Let me just conclude by saying this about the 124 Spider. on a per dollar basis, it is probably one of the most enjoyable, best built, and best looking cars you can buy on the market today. Highly recommend getting one if you have the ability to do so. You are going to absolutely love this car. And if you do buy one, look up local clubs, local Fiat clubs, local European car clubs. Get in the club and you'll meet other people who enjoy the same passion for cars as you do, and it's really a fun experience. It can be a fun experience for your whole family. So that's a plug for local clubs besides the car. But I think you'll find if you enjoy the car, you'll enjoy the car clubs just as much, because you're going to meet people just like you. Now, if you like the video, thumbs up, hit subscribe, and if you want to thank me, go to our t-shirt shop, buy some t-shirts. We don't make a lot of money on it. We make a little bit of money for each t-shirt you sell. The URL, https://shop.spreadshirt.com/drop-top-tees. We sell t-shirts, v-necks, buttons, mouse pads, some other stuff for 124 Spiders, Abarth 124 Spiders, 124 Spider designs just for women, Mustang convertibles, and some just for women. All different versions of the MX-5 convertibles, NA and B and C and D, classic 124 Spiders for you people who own them back from the 60s through 80s, as well as a couple for Z4. And we're looking to expand that lineup of cars as we go. If you go to the site, along the top bar, there's a drop-down menu called Topics. For whatever reason, that's what they call it. It's really categories. You can click on that drop-down and search through, and you can find the specific model of car that you're interested in buying apparel for. Thank you. Have a good day.